Hello, everyone. Paul Canfield from Copper Key Realty coming back to you, talking more about the buyer agency contract. We talked a little bit about it in the last video and just got started talking about how it's a 6-page contract written by attorneys. Every word is important, but there's a few main areas that we want to talk about. In this video, I want to talk briefly about price range. Why is there a price range on there? What's the point? Well, it might be to whittle down all the property that's out there to a manageable amount. So buyer and agent are talking together, and the buyer says, "Well, I went to the bank, got it pre-approved, and I really don't want to spend more than say $300,000." Okay, so they probably don't want to see all the homes listed for $600,000 or $1 million or $5 million or whatever. They don't want their email buried in all the options that are out there. So they might want to narrow it down. Also, they might say, you know what, I'm not looking for a fixer upper, so maybe I don't want a property that's below X, below this certain price. So let's just say with our this fictional buyer, they want to spend up to 300, but maybe not less than 150,000. Now, recognize when you're watching this video, both agents and buyers that are out there, you might be in another part of the world where prices are vastly different. Might be amusing to think you could buy something good for 300 grand. Maybe you're in downtown Manhattan and there's nothing under a few $1 million, perhaps. But price ranges are going to vary. The prices aren't the important point of this video. The point is, why do we have a price range? So in a way, it's a way to narrow down the range. My advice, personal advice based on many years of experience, to both buyers and other agents out there is to keep the range rather large for a couple of reasons. One, let's say that person, that buyer says, well, I've been to the bank and I should really, 300 or less. That's where the range I should be in. Well, what happens if the absolute perfect property comes along that's 305 or 310? Then the question is, would the buyers still buy it? Let's say it was perfect, didn't need a dime put into it. They could just move right in and it just fits them perfectly. And that little bit of extra money, and when I say little bit, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of money. Every dollar is important. But that little bit in proportion to the 300,000. Maybe it doesn't change their mortgage payment that much and they're fine with that amount of money. And so is their banker. So I would say let's give a range. If they say they want to be below 300, maybe we push it up to 3.25 or 350. Not in an effort to try to upsell the buyer. That's not it at all. But I like to tell buyers, look, I just want you to know what's out there. I want you to get a feel for the whole playing field, all the options of properties that might be vaguely of interest to you, and you'll get a feeling for what is a house worth in this area at this time for 200, 250, 300, 350, things like that. So you're not trying to upsell somebody. People should only buy what they feel comfortable paying, but you don't really want to upsell it. Also, the lower end of the price range, why I would leave it lower than what they might think, is that every once in a blue moon, a diamond in the rough does pop up. Someone who just wants a property gone and getting the absolute top dollar for the property maybe is not in the seller's best interest or what's most important to them. So, and as a very funny story, I had a property once that was a large farm with a huge chunk of land, wasn't selling. So the owners decided to split it up, and it was going to be a house with a much smaller chunk of land, and the price was going to be $144,900. Well, the person at the company I worked at, who was in charge of inputting price changes, they missed a digit, and so the property went in at 14,490. And you would not believe the number of calls that we had in a day before we could get it pulled back out of the system, and that people quit seeing it. So once in a while, if you see some price that's unbelievable, it could be a typo. But every so often, once in a while, there is something that is just one heck of a deal. And so I would advise for anybody's price range, go a little lower than you think you might want to go and look a little higher than you think you might want to go, just to get a good feel for everything that's out there. More on the buyer agency contract in upcoming videos. Talk to you soon.